When you configure a switch out of the box, you'll most likely want to set up an IP address and some basic settings before using it. Granted, a DHCP IP address can be left as is, but in most cases, you want to set a static IP address on the device. A DHCP reservation or static address can be set depending on how your network is configured. In our case, we're going to configure the switch as if we're reconnected to the console port. Normally, Cisco and other brands set the default VLAN to 1. For a basic setup, this works, but using VLAN 1 as your main VLAN isn't very secure. Most people know that VLAN 1 is the default VLAN, like a default username and password on a router. To see which VLANs are configured, type show VLAN. We can see we only have VLAN 1 set up, so we'll need to create another one. First, we need to enter config mode by typing config t. Typing int VLAN 13 will create the VLAN and also enter the mode to configure it. Next, we should name it something. So let's type name network. This way we know it's our main network VLAN. The end command gets us out of the config mode. Let's check our VLAN list with the show VLAN command. Now we have 1 and 13 listed for VLANs. That's great. Now that our VLAN is there, we need to configure the ports to use that VLAN. Enter config mode with config t. This time we're going to change settings on a range of ports with int range GI 1 through 27. These ports will only be used for regular computer access on our network, but this might not be the same on your network. Since only one VLAN needs to be associated with this type of use, we need to switch the port to access mode with switch port mode access. Now we can set the untagged VLAN of 13 on these ports with switch port access VLAN 13. Let's type end to get out of the config mode and then show VLAN to see which ports are associated with VLAN 13. Awesome, now ports 1 through 27 are only on VLAN 13. Our regular access ports are now configured, but we still have one port left as our uplink port. Normally, uplink ports are trunk ports that allow for multiple VLANs on a port. This is how tagged VLAN traffic is received between switches, for example. First, we need to enter config mode with config t, and then go to interface 28 with int GI 28. Config changes are now only specific to port 28. The switch port mode trunk command sets the port to a trunk port. Finally, using switch port trunk allowed VLAN add 13 adds a tagged VLAN of 13 to this switch port. Let's type end and then show VLAN to see our associated ports. Now you can see GI28 has a tagged VLAN of 13. It's a good idea that you have your VLAN settings in place before switching the default IP address to a different VLAN. Right now, our switch has a DHCP address, but we don't want to keep that address as it could change. A DHCP reservation or static are two methods to prevent this address from changing. Using show IP interface shows the currently set IP address. We'll disregard the mismatch alert message as that config problem is from another switch. Let's enter config mode by typing config t. Since we want our IP address on VLAN 13, we need to enter this VLAN's config with int VLAN 13. Simply type the IP address and subnet mask of your choosing, such as IP address 192.168.30.90, 255.255.255.0. There will be a warning to make sure you have the correct settings. Enter Y when you see this. Keep in mind that after this change, it might take a moment for this IP address to update on the switch, so we're just going to fast forward. Now that our IP address is changed, let's check it by typing show IP interface. Our IP address is now updated and is on VLAN 13. When you're done making changes, it's crucial to save changes to the startup config. Otherwise, when the switch reboots, it'll lose the changes you made. The copy running config startup config command brings the changes you made over to the startup config. That's it for this demo. In this demo, we showed you how to set up a VLAN, apply that VLAN to multiple switch ports, and change the default IP address for the switch.